Accessing agent files. Brian Sovryn. Early 21st century anarchist. Creator and host of the podcast Sovryn Tech. By the year 2021, the show would be instrumental in the downfall of various conservative ideologies in the government, helping usher in an incredible time.
Hey, want to take a walk on the wild side and experience the bleeding edge of technology? Then get ready, because it doesn't get much more edgy than this. You're in for a wild ride. You're listening to Sovryn Tech with your host, the man in triple black, the golden stallion of the tech world, Brian Sovryn. He's got a huge brain. And now here's Brian.
That's right, the golden stallion. Boy, am I beat. Just got done with a good hour's workout. I could barely crawl to the weights on my last set. No kidding. So fortunately, going to do a little special here, and I'm being joined by the lovely and hyper-intelligent, the Duchess of Debauchery, Dr. Stephanie Murphy.
Hello. I was going to make a joke about I'm the one who beat you off or something, but
later.
It just wasn't able to be worked in.
After this, it's midnight, late at night. Whatever.
It's always midnight when we start these things. Like we swear up and down, like all week it's on my calendar. I'm like, oh, we got to do a podcast.
Yeah.
Oh, we could do it tomorrow. Oh, we'll do it later. And then it's midnight Friday night and we're always podcasting. But this is like my time to podcast, because this is when I did pork therapy for years.
Yeah, that's true. You did it from 10 to 1 for so long. I used to broadcast that from the back of my truck. I had an FM transmitter, and I would connect to the internet at McDonald's. I'd be parked there, and I would actually transmit pork therapy in Keene. I mean, there was a pirate radio station there at the time, kind of off and on, and I would transmit that show. I'd make sure I was there every Friday night. That was before
That's
I was
so
actually,
cool.
Yeah, that was before I got to actually sit in the, in the studio with you. Months down the line. And,
yeah, that was before you knew me.
Yeah,
when
exactly.
you were living in your truck, right?
Yeah, it was great. So anyway.
Those were the days.
Yeah.
I haven't heard from any Keene State College students who heard my show, but doesn't mean they're not out there.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe people passing through kind of caught it. I don't know. But this special is about...
We passed through quite a few places last week, didn't we?
Yeah, we had a few days worth of, we went to Syracuse, New York, and then we went back to Keene for keenevention, then finally we came home. But before we get into that, I want to take a little bit of time to address the fact, and we did an after show on Free Talk Live a couple weeks ago about this, but to address the fact that we are leaving Free Talk Live, the Sunday night edition of it.
We're quitting Free Talk Live. That's right.
And so, now, I mean, I think the reasons may be well known, but if you want to give a quick wrap up as to the reasons.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't really go into that much detail, even though we did kind of announce it on the Free Talk Live after show podcast. But
sure.
Basically, I've been doing Free Talk Live for...
By the way, real quick, we have great stories to tell about our recent travels, so hold out for those.
Yeah, please. I didn't know we were going to talk about this, Brian, but
that's
fine. I'm totally willing to talk about it. I just wasn't prepared.
Sure. Yeah,
so
no, it's
I'll try
okay.
to be succinct.
Just give a, description of why it's going on, I guess.
Okay, keep me on track if I'm not being pithy enough, because I have a tendency to do that. But basically, it all started back in 2010 when I got this, volunteer gig basically to host Free Talk Live. And at first I came in as a fill-in co-host a couple of times and, did it for free. And then I got asked to host the internet-only Sunday edition, because they were doing a 6-day-a-week show at the time. And then the 7th day, the Lord rested. No, I'm just kidding.
on Shabbat,
Ian,
they
the
cleaned
Lord.
the manna machine. And that's why they got a double helping on Friday. And well, never mind. I'm not going into that. I'm not going into that.
You are such a tease. That's not fair to do. You're so mean to your listeners. You're teasing them with these Bible tidbits, and you keep
historical tidbits.
You admitted to me that you were thinking about doing some kind of a biblical podcast.
Yes, actually,
or a history of.
I'll lay it out here. I'm going for my DD.
Yeah, and what do you got to do to study for that?
Well, I need to prepare a thesis. So, I will be Dr. Brian Sovryn.
Who said you need to prepare a thesis, and who said you need to pay them $35 and they'll write your name on a little certificate?
All right. I am all about having the respect of my peers. Okay. And you are the highest peer. And
I do not respect it, Dee Dee. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But I would respect you if you wrote a book about...
Right.
I mean, I respect you in general, but I think it would be cool if you wrote a book.
Yeah, I'll do that. But I mean, admittedly, like a lot of these teases that I talk about, I mean, this is part of the reason I started a game company. But anyway,
because you want to tell the story of the history of the world as you see it, and lay out your ideas about Prisca Theologica and the first religion and the Illuminati. And
so we were talking about the reason you left or you're leaving Free Talk Live.
Right. So on the 7th day, Ian rested, and I came in to host the show, and I started...
To the Catholics, I think it's the 8th day, but go ahead.
Oy vey. That's all I have to say. Anyway, so yeah, I started doing these like internet-only Sunday shows. Did that for about a year, and there were other hosts doing it at the time. They were kind of unreliable. I mean, they had fun with it, but none of us were getting paid. So I was the only one who treated it as sort of like a job, even though I wasn't getting paid, which is kind of dumb. And I took it seriously, and I was professional, and I got better. I improved my delivery and improved my skills at hosting the show. And eventually, Ian and Mark decided to expand Free Talk Live and do a actual Sunday show that was going to be on radio stations, not just on the internet and as a podcast. And since I had already done all this learning and learned how to host the show and post the archives and all that good stuff, they wanted me to be the Sunday co-host with Mark. So I got into this arrangement, and, you know, Mark and I did this Sunday show for about a year and a half, I guess, before you started hanging around in the studio and sitting in, and you had some cool stuff to say. So eventually Mark turned on your microphone and you started doing the Sunday show with us. So that's the historical context. That's how we got to where we are today. Well, basically, you know, when Mark offered me this position as the Sunday co-host, he did pay me, but I was making glorified gas money doing Free Talk Live. And in the meantime, you know, I'm building up my voiceover career. I've transitioned from working in science to having my own business as a voice actor, and it's going really well. And there were just like a bunch of Sundays where I started realizing that, hey, I've got like $500 worth of jobs in the hopper that I could be working on that I'm going to have to do on Monday after I have been up really late and had to sleep in until 11 or noon because I got home late from Free Talk Live. And it takes, you know, Free Talk Live is a 3-hour show, but it's much more than that because it takes us about an hour and a half to drive there, hour and a half to drive home. Well, takes me another hour to do the archives.
Yeah, there's dinner. I mean, it ends up being an 8-hour. It's a full shift of a day.
It's an 8-hour thing, yeah. And of course, dinner is not paid for us. It's we have to stop at McDonald's or something.
Yeah, or whatever. But I mean, and you know,
or bring something. Yeah.
Yeah, whether you're self-employed or not, Monday is always a busy day. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's kind of how it is. Unless you're actually, the only way Monday isn't a busy day is if you're actually employed and Monday is one of your days off. I've actually had a job where like I had Monday and Thursday off every week. That was awesome to have Monday off because you're just laughing at everybody.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you know, I've actually, like, since I started working for myself, like, I've wanted to kind of do that and say, like, well, if I don't feel like working on Monday, I won't work on Monday. Or if I don't feel like working on Wednesday, I won't work on fucking Wednesday, you know?
Yeah.
Who cares? But in practice, it's not really been like that. It's basically, I have clients, I work for my clients. I don't work for myself, otherwise I'd be paying myself and they pay me, not me paying me. So anyway, I work for my clients, and my clients will email me on Monday or Wednesday or whatever day I might feel like taking off the day, and they'll want me to do stuff. So I do it, you know, I serve my clients, and I'm happy about that, but it's not exactly conducive. It ends up being more of a sort of Monday through Friday type deal.
Sure.
And when you're also working on Sunday, and every Sunday is basically the whole day, a full 8 hours of working day is devoted to Free Talk Live, that leaves one day off for fun, which is Saturday, which you do Sovereign Tech on Saturday.
Yeah.
So it's really like you have to work on Saturday too.
Yeah, that knocks out a good chunk of the day usually.
Yeah. So it was like, I felt like we weren't having weekends. And even though we're self-employed, I still felt like I wasn't getting I just wasn't getting enough time to do everything I wanted to do, including a little bit of relaxation and play.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and certainly it affects me, too. I mean, I'm doing, I'm an ad exec for Free Talk Live, of course. And so I'm emailing and calling people all week long. But then at the same time, I'm developing a game or, trying to work on that and have it ready and, web design and doing a podcast and all that. I mean, I could definitely do with another day.
Yeah.
To make all that happen.
And please, we're not complaining about our dream jobs. These are genuine dream jobs.
Yeah,
for
they
us.
are.
They're awesome.
Right.
It's just when I was working as a scientist and I had this 9 to 5, basically, I would, I would work Monday through Friday all day, sometimes late into the night. And Friday night I'd come home and do pork therapy after work. Saturday was my one day off to do laundry, and eventually I hired Mandrick to do my chores for me because I didn't want to do it because I couldn't do it myself.
Now I do them.
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate that, Brian. Makes my life easier. I don't clean. You should all know that about me.
I do it all. I got a brand new pink vacuum cleaner. The thing's fucking awesome. I love
do.
This.
You
it's
vacuum.
Eureka, as strong as a Dyson.
You're so hot. You're walking around without your shirt. You get your big muscles. You're vacuum cleaning.
Then the vacuum get laid. That's
so
what I hear.
So sexy. Well, it's true.
That's true. Shirt comes off. I'm wearing practically nothing vacuuming the house.
Well, it's division of labor because you're better at that stuff than me. I'm a very detail-oriented, perfectionist kind of person, and if I try to clean, I will.
You get stuck in one spot.
Yeah, I get stuck in one spot. I get overwhelmed. I don't know what to do. I go crazy. It's just not a good scene. So anyway, and I never learned the joy of talking about intrinsic motivation too. I never learned the joy of cleaning. I never learned that it is great and fulfilling and it feels good to have a clean environment. I learned that you're supposed to clean because your mom will get mad at you if you don't clean. Or some authority figure will get mad at you if you do not clean, so that's why you should clean. And as a result, I hate cleaning. I've never liked it as an adult. I've never done it. I just find ways not to do it, and I don't do it.
Yeah, see,
so this is the tragedy of authoritarian parenting, or not relying on intrinsic motivation.
For me, I don't know if it's intrinsic motivation.
You might end up like me.
But if there's clutter around me, my brain just gets cluttered. It's tough to focus.
I do too. I learn to ignore it. I find ways around it.
Yeah,
I'll do anything to avoid cleaning.
Sure. And I'm not saying that I love to clean or something. When I've had my own places, my solution to cleaning was to not own anything. Was to have practically nothing in the place.
That works in a way.
It worked,
Yeah.
But anyway.
I like the solution of hiring someone to clean, but when you have a sexy, buff, bald Mr. Clean man who does it for you around the house and looks good while doing it,
Keep
then
talking.
That's pretty nice. I have to say, it's pretty nice. Anyway, okay, so about Free Talk Live. So we just our time, it was crunching in on the time. We weren't having weekends, and Brian, every week we would drive to Free Talk Live, and you and I would have great chats in the car. We'd have awesome
I love
conversations.
Driving.
That was one of the best things about it because you and I
had some real.
We pull over
into parking lots sometimes late at night. I mean, we weren't
supposed
great
to talk about that on the podcast.
Oh, sorry. Well, it happened.
Well, it was great because we had uninterrupted time to kind of connect.
Yeah.
And that was cool. But it took a lot of time, and it was also we had a bunch of conversations at times when we were driving back and forth, what the fuck is the point? It's these old people, it's these older people who are calling into Free Talk Live because they're listening on the radio, and they're like, we need to close the borders, and, things like that. And it's are these people ever going to be convinced about the message of liberty? And what are their children like if they have children? What was their parenting like if they're glorifying the military and they're glorifying the cops and they're talking about, perhaps how great Sheriff Mack is or some shit like that?
Yeah.
Are we really reaching them with the message that we want to put out to the world? And I don't think we are. Well, I think they just can't handle us, basically.
Yeah.
The world is not ready for Brian and Stephanie.
Well, I want to bring up 3 points. First point I want to bring up is that Mark and Ian, when you discussed with them, and I mean, please,
we didn't say so. We didn't talk about that on the show yet. So
okay, well, let me get to that. I mean,
okay.
I want people to understand, that I did the show. I continued to do the show on Free Talk Live because
and you did it really for free. You were getting zero.
I wasn't getting paid at all. I mean, I'm an ad exec, but that has nothing to do with what I. With my hosting duties.
I think it was good for you to be a host and an ad exec. Like it helped because you were connected to how the show runs, and
sure,
that helped you in your ad job.
Sure, it definitely gave me a good feel, and it'll continue to do so because I'm not stopping being an ad exec. I'm in that for a while. Mm-hmm. So, but the point, the 3 points I want to bring up. One is that when we talked to Mark and Ian about this, and we could talk more about that in a minute, is they totally understood. They're like, you're absolutely right. Cost benefit analysis. This isn't working.
Yeah. Ian said, I feel like I'm wasting your time.
Yeah. I mean, they were completely understanding. There was no like, hey, what is this? You don't care about Free Talk Live? Nobody thought that way at all. Everybody was completely understanding. Mark was very gracious. I mean, it was all, and obviously you've been being gracious for years.
Mark's a tough cookie. He doesn't really show like, He wants to negotiate, but I think he felt that I did, he understood why I wanted to not, why I wanted something to change.
Yeah. Now, second point I want to bring up is that even in the Free Talk Live chat room, if you go to cam.freetalklive.com, there's like a built-in IRC chat room using Mibit, okay? And in there are, some of these people are so, not all, but some of them are just so fucking crass. Like, they are brutal to the show, and I mean, they're like the worst possible groupies you could ever have.
That's the definition of a troll. It's like someone who just sits, doesn't have anything else to do, gets some sick pleasure.
Sure, whichever. But
saying a bunch of shit online. Yeah.
Right, and they disagree with you and I constantly. They talk shit about us constantly, and that's all fine. But at the end of it, they would always say, "God, Stephanie's a great host." Saying that you were curt with the, you were
really?
quick with, they said you were quick with the calls. You were, your professionalism is what they were talking about, not necessarily your ideals.
Those trolls have touched my heart.
But I'm just saying that, like, this certainly has nothing to do with you not doing a good job either. You do a fantastic job, and you please the harshest of critics. Is my point with that.
Wow.
Now the third point I want to bring.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah.
Thanks for telling me.
Yeah.
You never told me that.
Yeah, that was, I think. Who knows where
I don't
our
read the chat, so
going.
you are like you are a masochist.
Yeah, I'm
you
kind
read
of
the
incognito in there often enough. But the third point I want to bring up is that actually a listener, in fact, I think this person also listens to this show, but he had made the comment, he said, Brian and Stephanie are almost too smart for this show, for Free Talk Live. Like they're not going to, they don't argue with each other. He was just wanting a very entertaining show. He wasn't being insulting in any way. Okay, but I think his point was valid. It's like that we were wanting to reach out in areas that the bulk of the listeners of Free Talk Live just weren't at, which is what you were saying earlier.
The hosts of Free Talk Live. I'm not saying we're too smart for Free Talk Live. I'm just saying that we're coming from a different place than pretty much everyone who calls into or hosts Free Talk Live. We just have a different perspective.
Yeah, and it's different.
Yeah,
we
kind of value different things.
Right.
Like, we're the only people on Free Talk Live who aren't like rah Free State Project, like let's vote and participate in the political process and things like that.
Yeah, we're we're two of like three people. We're two of three that I know of on that show that are totally against voting.
Johnny Ray doesn't vote.
Johnny Ray, and
he's the only one I know
every
of.
time he's on there.
What about Johnson? Does Johnson vote?
I think Johnson might be okay with political action.
Yeah, I think so too. And Chris Cantwell, does he vote? I don't.
Oh, you know what?
Oh, he ran for political office, didn't he?
That was back in New York. I don't think he bothers with politics anymore. I don't know.
Because he calls himself an anarchist, but I don't know if he votes.
But lots of people do that, and they still vote in New Hampshire because somehow New Hampshire is different, which I would disagree with.
But basically the party line on Free Talk Live from Ian is like, well, in New Hampshire, politics is different. Why it would be different in New Hampshire than everywhere else, I don't know. And I mean, we won't get into it here, but like, I just disagree. Like that the political system is a good way to spend your time and effort and energy, and I don't even have really a stake. I don't feel like I personally have a stake in whether people move to New Hampshire.
Right.
And the Free Talk Live, a lot of it is about promoting the Free State Project. I love living in New Hampshire and I like where I'm at right now, but I don't need to, I guess, convince other people to do that at this point in my life.
Right.
I've lost that desire. And it may not be right for everybody else, right?
No.
Even if you're a libertarian, maybe the best thing for you is to travel around the world and be a permanent traveler. Maybe the best thing for you is to move to Mexico. Maybe the best thing for you is to move to Malaysia.
Yeah. The only thing that's
maybe the best thing for you is to stay in California.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really have that. You have to figure that out on your own,
Sure. No, I think the only thing that's for everybody in life is choice. That's it, is having choice. Otherwise, not every system is for everybody, and I mean, that's the conclusion I've come to being here just over 3 years now. So, but anyway.
Yeah. So we didn't talk about this on Free Talk Live.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, for the most part, and actually 100%, it is an amicable breakup. There's no hard feelings. I've loved being a part of Free Talk Live.
Yeah.
Loved it.
I mean, you have an open invitation to stay as long as you want.
Yeah.
I mean, you really do.
Ian taught me so much about radio and audio production. I am so grateful to him. He gave me a chance when I was a new talent. I had no talent, actually. Well, I guess I had whatever talent I was born with, but I had no skills to execute the talent. So
or lack of experience, perhaps.
I am in huge debt to his it's so much gratitude to him.
Sure.
Mark gave me a chance, saw my professionalism and hired me on to be the Sunday night co-host, which out of a pool of people, he could have chosen someone else who lived in Keene.
Right.
He didn't. He went with me, even though I lived far away, because I was, I stood out.
Yeah. And you did this gig for what, 4-5 years?
Well, in total, I've been on since 2010 was the first time I appeared on Free Talk Live.
So about 4 years.
So about 4 years, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's
for the Sunday show being on the radio. It was about 3 years,
right.
I think.
And
Maybe
December would have been my second year.
Yeah.
In doing this, so I mean,
so we've stuck
lots
with
of loyalty there. You know, lots of loyalty.
Yeah, for sure. What was I saying? So I was saying no hard feelings toward them. We love Free Talk Live. By the way, I still amp Free Talk Live. I donate money to them.
Amplifier.
I'm in the cult. Just kidding. I don't think it's a cult. Some people have accused Ian of being a cult leader, but we won't.
If he's a cult, I wish every cult leader was like Ian.
Yeah, he's very open-minded.
He's
for
open-minded and he just doesn't care. He's not pulling any strings.
Yeah, I agree with that. So yeah, but I still amp Free Talk Live because I like it and I listen to it almost daily. I've been listening to Free Talk Live since 2005 or maybe 2004, a really long time ago.
Yeah.
This has been a part of my life for over 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal to leave the show, but it was also a big deal to be on the show.
Sure.
That was cool to me.
Or go ahead if you've got more.
Yeah, I mean, but I just wanted to say, even though it's been such a great thing for us and a big part of my life personally for a long time, it still makes sense to just periodically kind of reevaluate and say, is this still working out? Is there anything that we could change?
Sure.
And we did have a couple of conversations with Mark about things we thought maybe they could change or whatever, suggestions. And, it's not our business. Not it's none of your business, that kind of thing.
No, it's Ian
MYOB. It's Ian and Mark
it's their baby.
Are the owners of Free Talk Live. Yeah. It is their business, and it's not our business. So we don't really have much control over what happens with Free Talk. We can make suggestions, but we don't have a stake in it like they do. And so dedicating that much time and energy to something that I didn't really have any ownership in was something that I kind of moved beyond. You know, if I'm going to put that much effort into something, I do want to have some kind of ongoing relationship with it,
Yeah. I mean, I'm still contracted as an ad exec. So, I still have a relationship with the show, whether I'm on it or not. But I do, I want to talk myself. I want to talk a little bit about how I even got on the show, because I don't know if everybody even knows.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the simple fact is I moved to New Hampshire and I visited the studio once, got to meet Mark. That's all I got to really do. And then I had emailed you. And because I had emailed Pork Therapy, and I had mentioned that I had moved, because that was part of my question to you when I emailed you on Pork Therapy. And you said, yeah, stop by the studio some Sunday, and so I did. And you asked, and I stopped.
I was afraid you were going to be creepy, and I thought maybe that would be the only time I'd ever meet you.
Yeah. But you asked me to stay and hang out and watch the show.
Notice I didn't give you my home address.
Yeah, right.
Just kidding, Brian.
Yeah. So I stayed and watched the show, that one day.
Yeah.
And
Wait,
then
that's an open, by the way, it's incredibly generous. They've got an open door policy that if anybody who is has been a listener to the show, or is thinking about moving to Keene, or is thinking about moving to New Hampshire, or is just visiting, and they want to come in and just sit there and listen to the show live in the same room where the hosts are doing it, they are welcome to do that, as long as Ian is comfortable with them being in there. Yeah. And pretty much nobody gets to turn down for that.
Yeah. In fact, a couple Sovryn Tech listeners during Keenevention, got to see us, do a show on Sunday, which was great.
That was so cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can talk about that later.
Okay.
We'll keep them anonymous.
Okay.
More or less. But anyway, but I don't like to do things without getting invited. That's very important to me.
Indeed.
And I'm not a vampire where I can't walk into your house unless I'm invited. But that's an old superstition.
Yeah, that's ringing a bell.
Yeah. Anyway, but I don't like to do things if I'm not invited. But you kept inviting me, to come to the show, and so I'd come to the show, and eventually.
Well, that's why, because I knew that I don't like to do things unless I'm invited, so I invite other people if I want them there.
Yeah. So, but I sat there for months, just kind of listening to the show, doing my own thing. I'd have my phone in hand and just be doing my own business.
One time you went outside and you called the show.
Yeah, because I would comment. I'd make comments in between the breaks, and have conversations with with everybody, with you and Mark there, and. But then eventually, Mark had to go away at one point, and I was just about to start Sovryn Tech, and you said, "Yeah, I want to have Brian on." And Mark's like, "Yeah, sure. What the hell?" And Mark said, "I didn't know he wanted to be on. Otherwise, I would have had him on months ago."
I'm kind of surprised that he did that. That thought never occurred to him.
Yeah,
the whole time. He would quote months.
Yeah, exactly. Because he would quote me. After the break, he'd say, one of our producers here, and he would say what, the point that I had made during the middle of the show, whatever. We'd always have, I love Mark. We have great conversations. But that's the thing is, it really, I kind of got to live the fan's dream, because I was a fan of Free Talk Live before I came, obviously, as part of what enticed me to come to New Hampshire, and to just sit there for a while, and then to be able to actually, then be a host on the show. I even got to first chair quite a few times. I was a regular first chair for a while. And then also to end up working for the show. This, it's so, my whole time in New Hampshire, there's been, some downs, personal life downs that have occurred to me, that has to do with my past. But the ups, the dreams coming true have happened, just they don't stop. And it's so wonderful. So, I just want to make it known to people that I love Free Talk Live. I've had the greatest pleasure, to be a part of it. And I'm still a part of it as an ad exec, of course. But it was just, it was living the dream, being able to, this is a show I listened to for years. Yeah. And then suddenly, holy shit, I'm first chairing this thing. I'm steering the ship. And that was,
I can really relate to that.
That was so cool.
Same experience.
Yeah. So it's a beautiful thing, and there's no hard feelings to go around. Yeah. So basically we left off at a point in the story where we had just been doing the show, and then at some point it got to be too much, and so basically what happened was I came up with a number that I wanted to get paid that I thought would make it worth my time, and it wasn't an exorbitant number. Sure.
It was based on a percentage of the live read revenues from Free Talk Live, of what I understood them to be, because I don't have access to their books. I don't really know what they're getting from their ads, but I could estimate based on what I knew. And so without them opening up their accounting to me, which I don't care to see, and I didn't want them to do anyway. But
yeah, it's up to them.
I made an educated guess about a number that I thought was fair. It was a third of the live read revenues from the Sunday show.
Right.
And so I asked them for that per show to keep going. And I said, guys, this is the situation. I'd like to either, basically I'm ready to either move on or I'd like to get paid this much and this is why. And they basically said, well, we can't do that.
Yeah, they didn't say you weren't worth it. They just said, look, we can't do it.
Yeah, they just said that they just had a major sponsor quit and they're just
it's true.
Kind of strapped for cash.
A lot of advertisers ended or shifted their contracts. It's absolutely true. I can say that for a fact.
Yeah. So that wasn't going to work out for them, but I was fine with that outcome too, because then that means I get to take Sundays off, and I could not take it off necessarily, but I could do something else with that Sunday.
Right.
And in the meantime, the other backstory that had been going on in the background was that, you and I had started Sex and Science Hour, and we really just didn't have any time to make those podcasts anymore.
Yeah.
And so we dropped it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to pick it back up, but we just had we have no time.
Yeah. You read my mind. This is actually how I wanted this kind of conversation to end, is that now there's more time.
Yeah. So after maybe a month or two adjustment, we're gonna reboot Sex and Science Hour. I might even reboot Pork Therapy. I've been thinking about that for a couple months too.
Which is incredibly exciting, and you heard it here first. So, I'm excited. I know that. I'm still a fanboy.
Breaking news. Oh, thank you, Brian. You were wearing your shirt today.
Yeah, I was wearing a Pork Therapy shirt. Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah, it looks great on you.
Yeah. So anyway, did you have more you wanted to comment on that?
No, but I just, the one thing I did want to say was thank you. Thank you. I know that there are a lot of people who listen to us on the Sunday show, Free Talk Live, also listen to Sovryn Tech if they like us, if they're not trolling us in the chat room. If they're actual fans of us, they probably listen to Sovryn Tech. Yeah. So I'm talking to you listening right now to this show, as you probably will. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for supporting us. And thank you for, their moral support, any Bitcoin tips, but I mean, they don't have to have ever sent us any kind of tip. It's just their moral support that we like and I want to express some gratitude for, because it's great. It was actually a little bit nerve-wracking to start to do Free Talk Live, especially when some of my opinions started to come out, like when the audience started to get to know me, and some people started saying, "Oh, she's a feminist," or something. Like they didn't like some of my opinions. They thought, whatever about me not voting or not wanting to go to jury duty. Or something like
God,
that.
I remember my first couple weeks, my first month. As soon as I started talking about guns,
you took the heat off me.
Oh man, I mean, these people started calling in. What do you mean you don't? Oh.
Yeah. Well, I remember this one guy not only called and argued with you on the air, but he also wrote an email to Mark saying, "What the fuck is Brian doing on the show? He's just there because he's Stephanie's boyfriend."
There was more than one guy. There was more than one guy.
And then he ended up that guy in particular that I'm thinking of ended up being a big fan of yours and listening to Sovryn Tech.
He's a sweetheart, yeah.
So I thank you for being open-minded enough that person to change your mind. Or if you changed your mind, you who's listening, thank you for giving us the chance. It's been really fun. You can't do a show if nobody listens to you. So it's been really fun to do, and it's been a great experience, and we're going to keep doing Sovryn Tech and keep podcasting in other forums. So this is definitely not the last you're hear from us on Free Talk Live. And just thank you for being there. And thanks for everybody who wrote me an email, because I did get emails from several people saying, "Oh, I'm sad to hear that you're leaving the show." I
got some bit messages from people saying, "Hey, I'd be willing to pay up, what I can." Yeah,
unfortunately, there weren't enough people to make it to make me reach that goal number that I wanted to make it worth it to continue during Free Talk Live.
Right.
But it was so awesome that there were people who offered that. Like a few people did say, "Yeah, I'll give you $10 a month or something."
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that was really gracious, and thank you to them, for all of that. So
thank you.
I mean,
we will reward you with better content.
Yeah,
I can pretty much guarantee it.
Right.
and you don't even have to pay.
Yeah, this is going to give me more time for, Sovryn Tech as well. I mean, because a lot of people have said, please, 2 shows a week, which I've been providing anyway in one form or another. But this gives me more time to dedicate to Sovryn Tech, maybe to even up the production value a little bit more. This gives me a lot more time to concentrate on Zomia offline games. I mean, this is, because I think a criticism did get leveled that somehow, because we're not with Free Talk Live, that we weren't doing anything more for Liberty or something. And it's just like, well, first off, anyone...
Oh, that's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah. First off, I mean, people should do things for themselves to begin with.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Do I have some obligation to go and free the world? No, I don't think even they want to be freed.
Right. I've said from the get-go, the reason I ever do anything is just because I don't feel I'm heard. It doesn't have anything to do anywhere else. But the bottom line is that that's just not so. We're doing plenty of other things, and I mean, and Free Talk Live, Mark and Ian will even tell you this is the elementary, that Free Talk Live is the elementary school of Liberty.
Yeah, I personally, and I did tell this to Mark, I personally think that Free Talk Live, Ian and Mark, they're fucking busy. They're doing the show 7 days a week between the two of them and other co-hosts. They don't have time probably to seek out a lot of new ideas. They're really busy with what they've got, and they're doing a show every day. And so they've maybe got time to catch up on the news, but they're not like reading books and like looking for new stuff to bring to their audience necessarily. And maybe if they did do 3 days a week of content or something like that, or maybe just recorded 3 times a week and did a radio show and a podcast, and then released it on the off day, release the podcast on the off day, or release the podcast to their premium subscribers, or just something like just shake up their model a little bit, then they might have a little more time to do that real growth and to seek out new ideas and to just have more free time for themselves too.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I would do if I was in charge, but I'm not. It's not my business.
Yeah, I mean, Mark has talked about doing that more recently, and Ian always has a good book in the bathroom. I mean, Mark has talked about doing that because I've kind of, since I'm doing advertising quite a bit, I've taken some of the workload off of him. But regardless.
But I think he's still... I mean, just occupied, like,
sure.
How it is when you do something almost every day. It's like you barely have time for anything else.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, that's, I wanted it out there that, look, this is just allowing for more things, not less. You know what I mean? And
I agree. Well, if anyone complains about what we're doing for Liberty, first the question to ask is, what are they doing for Liberty? And then the question to ask is, I mean, I think we are actually, if we were to answer that question honestly, I think we're doing a lot for Liberty, especially our own Liberty.
Yeah, which is the only thing that matters.
Make money for ourselves. We're trying to get financial freedom.
Right.
We're trying to...
That's all I want anybody to do is something for their own liberty.
That's all we can do, though. That's the point I'm trying to make is that's the only thing we can... We always say this, like, focus on what you can actually control. And what have we done? Well, we've created an awesome living situation for ourselves. We have a great work life. We've made career changes. We've got our own jobs. We work for ourselves. We work at home. We have a great roommate. We're roommates with Wes Bertrand right now.
Yeah.
We have an awesome household. Like all kinds of other things. We've been traveling. We've been doing all kinds of fun things that whenever we can fit them in, going on little trips. We've been working on like mental, emotional freedom for many years. That's like probably the biggest piece actually that I didn't say first, but the psychological stuff is a journey that never ends, but that's how you get free. Freedom and happiness are an inside job. And yes, I said it. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, yeah.
But that's how you get free. And so if one wants to ask, what are we doing for Liberty? A whole fucking lot.
Yeah, well,
because we're working on all that stuff.
There's a great African proverb that goes something along the lines of, if there's no enemy inside, there can be no enemy on the outside. And that means if you're working on your internal freedom, really, like, if you're working on the intrinsic, the external can't really harm you so much. So, or at least you can deal with it better.
I interpreted that completely differently, but I see what you're saying. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. maybe the different way is the right way, but that's kind of how I took it.
The way I heard it was everybody has enemies on the inside, like demons and
Sure.
trauma and shit that they haven't processed from their parents and their family and, adults in their childhood and things
Sure.
like that. Not to say all parents are bad, certainly not. But,
No, definitely not.
But everybody's got their own traumas and demons, right? And the outside stuff plays on those, to harm you. Like, because the outside, the government and like all the oppressive forces in the world today, they're just kind of triggering a lot of people's trauma,
Sure.
the trauma that was inflicted on them as they were kids. And
Yeah, I think that's what I was trying to say.
Oh,
so, but
okay.
You laid it out very well.
Got it.
So
Then we're clear.
Anyway, Motley Crue. No.
Okay, yeah. Well, how long did we spend talking about Free Talk Live? I had no idea we were going to...
Just shy of 40. I wanted to do I want to do a half hour, so we're only 10 minutes over on that, right?
All right, yeah, not so bad.
Yeah.
Okay,
but,
so we went on a trip last week, Brian.
Yes. So I had asked you months ago, I said, would you be willing? As soon as I heard that Motley Crue was going on a final tour, I was like, okay, I got to catch this. And so months ago, I ordered tickets. I asked you if you would go, and you said, yeah, sure. You'd never really listened to Motley Crue. You didn't know, much about it. But now myself, I've been a fan for, and I'm sure I've talked about it during a Pick of the Week or the Climax or whatever, on Sovereign Tech in the past, just how, really like Motley Crue, definitely one of my top bands out there next to like Kiss. And so if they're on a final tour, I want to see that. Whether or not I think it's going to be their final tour, so far I think it's actually pretty true. Nikki Sixx is he's a real stickler, kind of on his word. So
I believe it's going to be their final tour.
Yeah,
and I this is the first time I've ever seen them. But
yeah, well, I'll say this: like, if it isn't their final tour, they're not going to keep touring with Mick Mars, their guitarist, because this poor guy. I mean, I saw him in '99 on their Lewd, Crude, and Tattoo tour when, and that was great because actually Tommy wasn't there. They had Sam Maloney. They had a woman on drums. She was so
wow.
good. Yeah, that was amazing. But anyway,
what was Tommy doing?
He was doing he kind of broke up from the band, and he was doing his own. He had
when was it? Was he making his sex tape?
No.
When was that?
Yeah, no, he had his own. He was doing solo.
That was in the late '90s, right?
Yeah, or mid '90s. So, but he was doing Methods of Mayhem. He did Tommy Land. He did his Never a Dull Moment album, which I really like. Anyway, so he was doing his own thing. But, I saw them then. And even then, I looked at Mick. I looked at Mick Mars, the lead guitarist. And he's like hunched over. He can barely, like play. And I'm just like, oh my God. And that was 10, that was almost 15 years ago. And so I knew it had to be getting close to being done. So anyway, so I think this is their final tour. If it isn't, again, at least Mick's not going to be there anymore. So it's your last time you get to see the four original guys.
I have a different reason than potential health problems that I think it's going to be their final tour, but we can save that for later.
We'll get into that. So I wanted to see this again. Bought the tickets months ago. We were good to go. You had like points for free nights at a hotel.
Okay, I've got this Marriott credit card.
Yeah.
Okay, and every year it gives me a free night, and they might as well because it's a fucking annual fee. These credit cards are such a fucking scam, okay? Like,
oh yeah,
they give you points and it might be 3% cash back on whatever you buy. But the thing is, they're just getting the merchants to pay the 3%.
Right.
So you're not really getting any like you're just getting the fee that you wouldn't be paying if you paid with cash, and it's such a fucking scam. But anyway, I've got this card, and it gives me a free night every year. So I said, hey, Brian, let's stay overnight. Let's use my free night, and we can stay in Syracuse. There's like this little alcove where there's all these hotels.
Yeah,
so
it's right off the
Marriott
Thruway in New York.
There's a Courtyard Marriott in there, and I have to say, like, the reason why I have this is Marriott hotels are just nice. I really like them
I agree.
as a hotel chain. And,
even
even their Residence Inn or Courtyard, like the brands that aren't as quite as fancy as like the Renaissance, whatever, they're still nice. And they're good places to stay. So I like them. And
we needed that because it's a 5-hour trip.
Oh, yeah.
Get, more or less.
We wouldn't have wanted to drive home after that.
Yeah, to get to Syracuse.
Forget it.
Right. And definitely the concert ran and Alice Cooper opened. and the concert ran from pretty much like 7:20, 7:30 to like midnight.
Yeah,
I mean, it was a good long concert. But I mean, you have two major acts there. You have Alice Cooper opening, and or some would say co-playing, but since it's the final tour for Motley Crue, I guess they get the bigger billing. So
he's a big name.
Yeah, you got two big names playing. It's going to go a good 3-4 hours.
And it's almost Halloween. That was the other thing.
Yeah, which Alice Cooper, actually, we're right nearby the Turning Stone Casino, in New York.
We stopped there on the way.
Yeah, which we stopped there because they have a fantastic buffet that we love to eat at. And anyway, he regularly, every other year, does his Halloween show from the Turning Stone Casino. This is the middle of West Bumfuck, New York. Okay. and he's always there doing his, his big Halloween show, which is a big deal. So I don't know if he actually did it this year or not, because we went to this just a couple days before Halloween. But anyway, they would make sense that he would be in town for that sort of gig.
Yeah, right on. So, okay. So we,
and I'm a huge fan of, just real quick, I'm a huge fan of Alice Cooper, too. I regularly call him Uncle Alice. Constrictor is probably my favorite album by him, and Trash, and anybody that knows about that kind of music will know what I'm talking about. Because really, musically, I haven't very much left the 80s.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Even though I was born in 81.
You don't have the hair, but...
No, I don't have the hair. But,
that's all right.
But I'm stuck there.
Grandfathered in.
Yeah. So I had to see this final tour, and I'm so glad that you came along with me for this.
Yeah, me too. It was fun.
Yeah, great drive.
So let's start out with the drive.
Sure.
So we bumbled across Vermont. We took the scenic way. We could have, taken highways the whole time, but that wasn't quite our style. So we decided we'd take a little bit longer trip, but more scenic.
Sure.
We drove through Vermont, across Vermont, not on a major highway, just these little state routes. And that was great. I mean, we actually saw, Vermont is so interesting. It's like, I think that the governments in Vermont, they have these really strict, tight regulations about what kind of businesses can open in these little shit towns. And it's so ridiculous because they're little shit towns. They need economic revival. They don't need someone telling them, you have to have a white building with green trim and a wooden sign in front, and it has to look really homey, and you have to have maple syrup, and you have to have Vermont cheese, and you have to have this kind of sign. And that is not what they need. They need some kind of economic boom. But somehow Vermont still exists. It's probably kind of poor as shit, but
I was amazed because we were going through some of those shit towns, and I was so pleased to see this. And in one way, in another way, I'm not happy to see it because this kind of order in our world doesn't come spontaneously. But every house in this town had the metal roofs. They're full-on houses,
oh, that's
full-on
right.
businesses, and they had the sheet metal roofs, which those things last forever.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to put them, like years ago I wanted to get it put on my house, and everybody's like, no, those things look god-awful.
It's probably against the zoning in some places, too.
Yeah, maybe. But in any case, I wanted that so bad.
Yeah, Massachusetts would regulate the pitch of the roofs and what kind of shingles you could put on. And
I'm sure Vermont did too, because every place had this.
In this one
town. And I'm
town,
like, that cannot be cheap to do that on every goddamn building in the place.
They weren't nice houses either. They were kind of old and run down, but they had these metal roofs.
But it was so great to see that because everybody thinks about Vermont as being so scenic. And it's like, oh, good. So these don't look god-awful anymore. These are legitimate. And so, next time...
Because they're in Vermont?
Yeah. If somehow I ever become, of means or something, I can have a sheet metal roof.
Brian, you don't have to ask anyone's permission. Yeah, maybe the game sales will do well, Brian. That would be great.
Yeah.
So we drove through Vermont. We get to New York, and New York was pretty uneventful. I mean, I found myself wondering a lot, we're driving through the New York, and there are all these names of places like Nanatuck and Canastota and, these Native American, what is it, Iroquois names?
Iroquois, yeah.
Yeah.
Or Haudenosaunee.
Haudenosaunee, that was what they were originally called, right. And then the white people called them the Iroquois, right?
Yeah, they're okay with being called Iroquois.
Yeah, they accepted it.
Yeah, or you can call them the Six Nations.
Sure, my name's fucking Bill, but you can call me Bob if you want, white boy. Anyway, so there are all these native names, and I just found it amazing how these Europeans, like years ago, they came in, they took over this entire landmass. There's probably some French people from Canada, and they're British and coming from the other side. And there's all these Europeans coming in and just decimating the Native Americans, pushing them onto reservations, rounding them up, killing a lot of them, not being honest in their business dealings with them, just totally taking advantage of their kindness and compassion, and, you know, just wiping them out. But for some reason, they decide they're going to keep their names for what the towns are called. Why? It doesn't make any sense. Like, why not name it like Nottingham or New York or some shit like that? You know, like, why do they keep the name?
No, it's weird because, like, I don't know, you know, because you have, like, even the counties, okay, the, like, 2 counties that are right next to each other are Oneida County, which is an Indian name, the Oneidas, and then right next to that is Herkimer County, which is named after a general, General Herkimer. And so, it's weird how, you know, how that all ended up working out. So, and
then they've got the Italian names. There's like Venice, Verona, Rome.
Yeah. Vienna. I mean, there's plenty of them.
I just said Vienna.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said Venice and
Venice, Vienna, Verona.
Okay.
Oh, maybe I didn't. I'm sorry, Brian. I'm really sorry if I screwed that up.
No
Only
worries.
The recording will tell. I don't know what was said. It's late.
Yeah. So, but I mean, an interesting, you know, side note is that, you know, the Six Nations, which is kind of, I guess, the official name that the Iroquois are using, they're getting a lot of their land back. So it's just as well that the shit's still named, you know. I mean, they're an economic boon. I mean,
because they don't have to pay taxes, right?
And we make it a point to actually they have their own industry, they have their own brand or franchise that called Savon, SOV or SAVON.
Yeah, it's a gas station and a convenience store,
right? And no tax, you know, at most of these.
Yeah,
and
so we left the U.S. without taking our passports. We went onto this land. Yeah, we left the U.S. Yeah. We were surprisingly welcome there.
No, well, it was crazy because, I mean, at one of the exits, like, I mean, they're building this huge wall, you know, to keep the Americans from getting in, because I mean, those dirty Americans are going in there to steal the jobs, you know.
Funny, anyway. Funny.
No, but I love.
They're bringing tuberculosis and they're eating the dogs too. I heard they're
bringing in smallpox,
leprosy.
So, but I love to frequent. At one point I was very good friends. I went to school. The guy that runs the Turning Stone Casino, which is kind of the centerpiece of the Six Nations, you know, economy, more or less. Ray Hallbritter. I actually went to school with his sons, Forrest and Aaron, and you know, just a really great guy, really nice guy, and has donated quite a bit to a lot of relief efforts around the world. So I have no problem with, you know, if you want to know where does this money go, well, a lot of times it goes to Katrina, it goes to, you know, all kinds of, you know, disasters.
Like Hurricane Katrina?
Yeah, that he had donated to. He was actually on Jay Leno at one point. He donated some odd $1 million.
Wow.
To that effort, and he got to be on TV for all of like 5 seconds.
Is that because like the Native Americans are so prosperous they don't need like welfare? I mean, you think, okay, so like, is this place actually a reservation or what is it? Is it just people living freely on some free land?
The Six Nations?
Yeah. What is it technically?
Yeah, it's a reservation. Like they have.
Okay. Do they have the Indian Health Service?
Yes.
Okay, that sucks.
Right. Well, but not so much, because actually, depending on where you work, if you work within some of the actual Iroquois-run industries, they have really good health care provided, you know, by big companies.
Okay, but that's not through the Indian Health Service,
no,
though. Okay,
but I mean,
of course.
Yeah, there's areas of the reservation where things aren't so grand.
Yeah.
And it falls, you know, unfortunately, to like in the Seneca area, where, again, I'm pretty intimately like knowledgeable about a lot of that area, just because I grew up in it.
I'm really curious about it. It's fascinating to me because, like, you think about in the Southwest, the Native Americans in the Southwest, they've just been destroyed. Like they're in these ghetto reservations, and they're all just alcoholic, and they've got diabetes, and they're really obese, and they don't thrive on the stupid American diet.
Well, obesity is still an issue even in the Six Nations.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a fact.
Sure. I mean, part of it's genetics and...
Yeah, but I mean, part of the economic prosperity that they have comes from the fact that they are a cheat in the system, in that, you can go and get cigarettes for like $1.50 cheaper, or however much, or, and they can make their own cigarettes, or, you can go gambling in the middle of an area where gambling is generally outlawed. And before somebody complains about that, it's like, hello, you have Las Vegas that every American can go to, that's part of America, that somehow nobody bitches about at all. But boy, if some Native Americans open up a gambling establishment, everything's going to go to shit. It's like, oh, okay, so you can only have it in Las Vegas. Got it. Yeah. Anyway, which is ridiculous.
It seems like they're doing pretty well with it, especially...
it's a beautiful place.
Yeah, compared to some of the other reservations in the U.S. where they've just been like ghettoized and like turned into like really dependent, like they can't get off the reservations. They really, I didn't mean to make it sound before like it was their fault, because basically these people have been corralled by the U.S. government. Their land was taken from them, and then the government says, oh, well, we'll give you all this welfare, and it just ruins them.
Yeah, they got screwed straight up.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any history book that says differently.
Horrible, yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, admittedly, like the Iroquois situation is kind of unique, because it is the one reservation that's actually growing. And that because they're getting more land back, they're winning in court, they're doing all this.
Wow, so they're suing people and getting land?
Sure, and I mean it's been some contention at times, because there's people who who get, I mean, and the Six Nations pay people very handsomely, to give them at times, to give them the land at times.
Yeah.
But there's some people that just aren't okay with it. They feel like they're being uprooted and whatever. And I mean,
white people?
Yeah, white people. Mm-hmm. And,
how's it feel?
Well, that's usually that's over the years, that's been my answer. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, how about it?
I mean, I kind of feel like a jerk saying that, because it wasn't those white people that took the land from the Native Americans, and they're not like, they're playing out this thing that's been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years. Yeah. So it's not those people's fault, or it's not. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not interested in getting into reparations and all this stuff, because somebody's probably going to email me and talk about that.
I'm sure they will.
That's a conversation for another time. So, but the bottom line is in general.
The bottom line is we went to their buffet. No, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, in general, I appreciate the business that these people provide, and boy, did we enjoy their buffet every time we go through there. It is fucking amazing.
Well, speaking of that, like when we go to casinos, the only thing we really do is eat, because we don't gamble, we don't drink,
gamble, don't drink, don't smoke.
Interest in other activities like that. So so we eat. so we went to this buffet, and it's on this Iroquois land. We go in the buffet, and they've got, like, on the salad bar, they have, quote, traditional Native American salads. And all of them are made of grains. Okay, one is made out of corn and some vegetables. Yeah. The other has quinoa. Quinoa doesn't even fucking grow in North America. It doesn't grow north of Peru. I mean, it's like...
not authentic cuisine.
No, it was not. It was not traditional Native American by any stretch of the imagination. They have like couscous and quinoa and corn, and
if it was traditional Iroquois, it would have all been smoked meats, because they lived in longhouses and they were like the kings of smoking food.
Yeah, I imagine. And there was no smoked meat to be seen, but there was a venison stew.
Oh, that was good.
That was also labeled as traditional Native American fare, and that I could almost believe.
Yeah,
it was
the venison
like
would have been right
tomatoes
on.
And venison. It was really good.
Yeah, that was great.
But yeah, like this is the paleo diet, people. Yeah, this is not quinoa and couscous.
Yeah,
and the reason that a lot of people are obese on Indian reservations is because they're eating grains.
Yeah.
Corn ruined Native Americans' health and bodies. So,
right. But Stephanie, they brought the corn to the pilgrims. They're like, here you go.
Oh, that's such bullshit. The corn was probably the size of a baby corn back then, because it wasn't genetically modified to...
Or they're probably like, look, okay, we have these leftovers. We usually don't eat this shit. Okay. But since you guys are hard up, you didn't bring enough supplies with you. Here. have this, okay?
I love that explanation.
Don't say we never did anything for you. That's probably how it went down. So,
yep, I like that.
The idea that they ate wild rice and all that. In fact, I know for a fact that I've talked to natives that laughed at that notion. It's like, we might have eaten that if we were like starving.
Yeah, why would you do that when you could get a deer and have delicious venison stew?
Yeah. So anyway. But
that was the only thing I wanted to comment on about that.
Yeah, but a great buffet kind of has like tastes of the world, and you walk around the buffet. I mean, this thing's huge, and you can get different different flavors. It's a continental buffet. It really is. Like you go continent to continent, as to where often the continental breakfast isn't very continental at all.
Yeah, it's like a piece of bread, some disgusting old stale cereal.
Yeah. So we got the buffet, and
we got our protein, and
right, and we got on the road, and we were kind of running a little tight. We were a little worried.
Mm-hmm.
The time was getting kind of tight.
Yeah, we didn't have time to check into the hotel before we went to the concert, so we just went straight there with all our stuff in the car.
Right.
We found a parking garage. We had to go all the way up to the top to get there, and then like we were driving into Syracuse, and we were looking for a place to park, and we saw the line going out the door of the venue. We got to the venue, and the line was just already wrapped around the whole building.
Yeah.
And at the front of the line, there were security guards, and they were patting people down, like as though they were the TSA. And I said, "Oh, shit."
With the police lined up watching.
Yeah. The police were just sitting there watching. That was really weird. Right. Like they're making sure they did it okay, or they patted them down thoroughly enough. I don't know what they're doing. There were also Christians. There were some Christians protesting the concert, the devil music of Motley Crue and Alice Cooper.
Yeah, they had their big signs, and they were,
I have to say, as far as the Christian protests I've seen in my life, this was a relatively nice one. Like this was not like Fred Phelps or Westboro Baptist Church stuff.
Right. No one had a megaphone or anything.
No, it was just two Christians, and one guy had a big sign that said something about Jesus loves you.
Yeah.
And that was it, and there were people kind of spitting at him and yelling at him.
Yeah.
Stuff like he wasn't getting treated too nicely. But I mean, he's basically, by being there, he's basically saying, your music is demonic. Repent. You need to be saved. There's something wrong. He's saying there's something wrong with you people for being here and wanting to listen to this music.
Right.
So, I could see how people would be upset by that message.
At the same time, I mean, it's in the New Testament. Paul's very clear when he says to Christians, you will be persecuted for your faith.
Does he say anything about Motley Crue?
Doesn't say anything about Motley Crue.
Does he say anything?
There's actually that. No, never mind.
Does he say anything about what type of music is appropriate to listen to and what type is not?
No, but Ellen G. White did. But that's another story.
Oh, she's the Adventist.
Yeah, she was a prophet, quote unquote. But anyway, so
well, she also ate a lot of grains, didn't she? Raisin Bran.
That she did, because Mr. Kellogg was an Adventist himself. So anyway, that wasn't that bad. But what was really bad were the pat downs. In fact, I lost a pen. And in fact, I want to bring this up because I have one of these tactical pens.
I have the same pen. I'm glad I didn't bring it to this concert.
Yeah, and where it's made out of aircraft aluminum, and it's if you needed to, you could break a window with it or something, or maybe do some degree of damage or whatever with it. And it's always been like my recommendation. It's similar to what they call a kabuto, which is like these keys, this keychain thing that it's popular in Japan.
A Kubotan.
Kubotan. I'm sorry, not Kabuto. Kubotan. Thank you. It
was like a combination of the tractor, Kubota tractor.
Yeah, the Kubota tractor.
Kubotan.
Yeah, Kubotan. So that's what this is supposed to kind of mimic. Not lethal, but anyway. And, I have it in my pants pocket, not even really thinking about it whatsoever. And the guy feels it in my pants pocket. I mean, this guy's giving me a full pat down.
Jeez.
And he's kind of rubbing it. It's like, oh, what's that? And it's like, is that a lighter? I was like, no, it's a pen. And I pull it out, and he's like, he kind of holds it, And then he gives it back to me. I'm about to go, and he's like, "No, I gotta have the pen." So I don't know if he looked at the cop behind him, and the cop's like, "No."
Wow.
You know, I mean, and it's just a pen. And so honestly, these security or these tactical pens aren't even going to get you into a concert, so they're fucking useless. Okay.
Well,
you know what I mean?
This may be incriminating myself, but I may or may not have taken that pen through the TSA about a dozen times. Never had a problem with it.
Yeah, maybe it was just a bad luck. It was just a little bit of bad luck. But anyway, I was disappointed in that because I'm a big fan of these pens. I bought you one. I mean,
I know.
Yeah.
I was mad. I didn't know you lost your pen until after the concert.
Yeah, he said I could take it back to the car, but I'm like, no, we're already running kind of late. Cooper's playing. I'm like, I was like, it's a fucking pen. That's literally what I said to him. Aww. And I just tossed it in the trash. And
that's so sad.
Yeah. So anyway, that was annoying.
Yeah, that sucks. So yeah,
but that kind of set the tone for the whole concert.
It sure did. Yeah. So we got in. Yeah, and my pat down was kind of similar. Like they separated people by sex, so they were like, ladies go in this line and men go in this. So Brian and I had to separate. We never like to be separated. We don't like to go in different lines.
Yeah,
we want to be together all the time.
Yeah.
So we had to break up, and that sucked. And then I'm waiting in line, and the women in front of me are just like laughing, having a great time, just joking with the security guard as she's feeling him up. And they're like, the woman in front of me said, "Oh, shouldn't we exchange numbers first?" And the security guard's like, "I know, right?" And she's like patting her down. And it was so gross. And so
making tyranny cute.
Yeah, exactly. It was just minimizing the whole impact of the situation. So it gets to be my turn, and I just stare at the woman poker face, and she's like, "Hi, I'm gonna pat you down, okay?" And it was like talking to a kindergartner or something. And I just rolled my eyes and put my arms out. And
I'm sure someone's gonna say, "Well, look, it was a private business. They can do what they need to do."
Yeah, well. I didn't agree to that. I mean, I didn't get told before I drove 5 hours to Syracuse and got excited for the concert that was part of the experience.
You know, honestly, that should be, I agree. I think that should be, in fact, I might do something about this because I think that should be a warning. You're going to get patted down, before you come into this place. And before, and I've been to many concerts in the past, and they used to check to see if you had cameras or something on you. That's all that they were concerned about. Now you can't. Fuck it. Like there's no way
can't stop. There's everybody's
you can't stop
doing
cameras
photography.
Because nobody's going to leave their cell phones anywhere. Okay. Yeah. So
I haven't really been to many metal shows in my day, but I used to really like punk rock, and I'd go to punk rock shows all the time. And this was pre 9/11, and then like a couple of years after it. Mm-hmm. So this is maybe like 10 years ago, and it was never like that. Like I went to a bunch in Massachusetts, and there were I never got patted down. Right. Never. We'd stand outside, you'd wait. The most that ever happened to me was a security guard once searched my purse, and I had a protein bar in it. And she took the protein bar because you weren't supposed to bring food in or something like that. And then when I was on the way out, I said, "Can I have my protein bar back?" And she goes, "I ate it."
Ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a bully, it's basically just a bully. Yeah. But there were no cops. It was just private security, and they weren't patting people down.
Right.
And the worst, and then, in those days, in the shows, there were mosh pits. There was freedom of movement. You didn't have a fucking seat. You just walked in. You didn't have a seat.
Yeah, that was the thing.
Who's going to sit down?
Right. At this concert for Cooper and crew, there were chairs, which I agree. That was like weird.
We got escorted to our seats. So we got in, we got past the security. Brian threw away his pen. Right. We put our earplugs in. Alice Cooper was playing already. We walk into the venue, and there were like 3 ushers along the way that directed us to our seats. And we had seats. There were chairs that were bolted to the floor, unable to be moved. It was like rows of chairs bolted down. Yeah. So you had a choice. You could either sit or you could stand.
Right.
You couldn't stand in the aisles because people would come around, security guards, ushers, cops would push you back into your seats if you tried to stand in the aisle. I mean, it was like, I just kept thinking of like, some of these people who talk about like, oh, in Mexico, people just have this attitude of freedom and nobody follows the rules and shit like that. I was just picturing, like, what if we were in Mexico and somebody tried to tell these people to, like, sit down in their seats? They'd be like, what the fuck? In Spanish. And, you know, like, but the Americans were just, like, doing it, like, no questions asked. They're like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to stand in the aisle.
Yeah.
You know,
it kind of, you know, it almost reminded me of, like, and ironically, Motley Crue played at this, the Moscow Music Peace Festival in '89. Mm-hmm. Okay, where you see footage from that, and there's like these, you know, just you know, there's these Soviet soldiers like standing everywhere and just like trying to keep, like, you know, a semblance of order there and all that stuff. And obviously, you know, that it's Soviet Russia, they'll shoot to kill. And you know, in Soviet Russia, anyway, Natalia would know a thing or two about that. But
Natalia would keep you in line.
Absolutely.
Sit in your seat or face the consequences.
So, you know, it kind of reminded me of that. And it was, yeah, you know, I'll admit that was kind of depressing. Like, just all these security guys. And now I got to say, the shows, the performances, Alice Cooper was amazing. He did his whole, you know, Feed My Frankenstein shtick, and where he had like this, you know, huge Frankenstein suit come out afterwards. You know, he got his head cut off. He did, you know, the whole business.
He had a snake.
Yeah, he came out with the boa. I mean,
this poor snake. It must have its poor ears. I hope it had little snaky earplugs for that guy.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a deaf snake.
Yeah. So, so I mean, and Motley Crue. I mean, fireworks everywhere. You know, flames shooting up constantly during Shout at the Devil.
Lights in the shape of a pentagram.
Yeah. Everything awesome. You could want. Women on stage. You know,
we were right next to the light techs too, so I got to watch the guy like playing with the soundboard.
Oh, it's an art.
The lights, and it was so cool. I enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah. So I mean,
but the performances were amazing.
They were great shows. You know, awesome shows.
They put on a great show.
But the audience, the vibe was just not metal.
Yeah, it was scared.
It was so off.
It was fear. It was conformity. It was police state. I hate to say it, but it was like the police state just was there, and it put a big damper on the whole thing. Yeah, and there's plenty of drunk people around. There's plenty of people drinking and all this stuff, but somehow they were like kind of calm. Now, granted, Motley Crue does not necessarily they're drinking watery beer.
Sure, right, yeah, boy. Anyway, but not to say that like Alice Cooper or Motley Crue lend themselves very well to a mosh pit. But I've been to Motley Crue concerts and Cooper concerts before, and hey, you know, if there's
at least some crowd surfing or something.
When Kickstart My Heart cranks up, usually you can get a mosh pit going. Okay, people, you know, it's a really intense song, or even Shout at the Devil if they're doing the '97 version from Generation Swine. Something people can start, you know, really moving, and it just it didn't happen. You know,
how could it? The chairs were immovable,
right? But you know, I was there, and not obviously we don't drink, and I'm singing, you know, as loud as I can. My voice is hoarse after the fact, you know, and I'm fist pumping the whole thing. And there's a security guy, you know, maybe 6-7 feet away from me, and I think he was like watching me because no one else was singing to every song, and he must have looked like, I think he thought it was some kind of malcontent. Here I am getting into the music, you know what I mean? And it's hard to believe, right? Yeah, people can get into music without being fucking drunk, but you know, but like that was so bad. And to make it worse, what was the biggest thing missing, especially from a Motley Crue show?
Zero tits.
None.
I didn't even see one tit. I saw no bras.
None.
I saw no panties.
Yeah, I mean,
nothing.
Throw some panties onto the stage, throw a bra, lift up the shirts, get on. You know, I mean, this is a Motley Crue show, for fuck's sake. Every song is about sex.
It's insulting to them.
It is insulting.
I mean, the fact that first there's no mosh pit. Then then people aren't quite getting into it.
Yeah, I mean, I used to put women on my, you know, on my shoulders, you know, hold them up and have them stand, and then they could lift up, you know, their shirts or whatever, and not happening at all. Look, you know, I saw Quiet Riot. Okay, now you might not know who they did come on Feel the Noise. You know Quiet Riot. So I saw Quiet.
Are you kidding?
Right on. So I saw Quiet Riot. Okay, this was 2001. All right, and even they, in 2001, and Kevin DuBrow was, you know, he was, for lack of a better word, impoverished. All right, really, he was in rough shape. He was claiming poverty on MTV. I mean, it was big news, and then, of course, now he's dead now. But he even said, he's like, something that used to happen back in the 80s with us is, women would show us their tits. And, man, a bunch of women showed them their tits to Quiet Riot. And, like, they are, believe me, Alive and Well was a badass album that came out in 99. Okay? But, this is a band that by any measure was long over in the popular mindset. They should not have been getting tits shown at them. Yeah. I think they should have, but by most people's standards, they shouldn't. And so for Motley Crue to have no tits shown to them, it's insulting. You're right. You're absolutely right.
Not even like 40-year-old tits. No. Not even 60-year-old tits. There were no tits, not even one.
Yeah, and I think people were scared. I think they were scared.
Absolutely.
That
Would
if
you want to show someone your tits with a cop right there? They'd probably arrest you.
Sure. And the police were in the building. That's ridiculous.
They were right there. They got a free show.
Yeah.
It's like, who invited you?
God damn it.
Get out of here.
I couldn't believe it that there was no tits whatsoever.
Nope. I wonder what would have happened if somebody had done it. If someone had started it, would other women have followed suit?
Honestly, I think so. I think they would have gotten taken out. I think security would have went up and grabbed them and taken them out. Yeah. There were a lot of kids there, but I mean, there were kids there in 99 when I saw them.
Oh, Christ.
And
seriously, if you're taking your kids to a Motley Crue show.
Yeah, I mean, what do you expect?
Yeah.
They're going to do a song called She Goes Down.
Yeah, there's strippers on the stage. I mean, come on.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I have to say, it was the lamest concert I've ever been to in terms of the behavior of the audience and the police state and the venue. Like, the lamest by far.
Yeah.
The music was great. The performers were great, but I felt bad for them.
Yeah.
I felt like they were not going to get the enjoyment that they would have gotten in the 90s.
No, they like to interact.
Yeah.
And I think,
that's what you do as a performer. We are performers.
Right.
We want people to show us their tits. No, well, not speaking for you, Brian, but
no, I don't mind, please.
If I'm having a little empathy here. If I were Motley Crue, I would want people to show me their tits.
If you were Stephanie Murphy, you'd want people to show your tits.
It depends on who they are. Please, you don't have to show me your tits. Yeah. Unless, well,
if you want to, go for it.
I'm on the fence, but, I do crave interaction.
So you can see all the tits. You're on the fence.
I like it when people don't just passively listen, but they do stuff. They share, they email or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, do something, right?
Yeah. Vince Neil, the lead singer from Motley Crue, he came out and he said that, his voice, he was just coming off, he was kind of losing his voice for something. Then they were just coming off of a break during the tour. And, so he wanted people to kind of sing along. And he was being pretty, nice, I think, because I didn't really hear the crowd singing. I mean, I was singing my lungs out, you know what I mean? But, because I know pretty much every Motley Crue song word for word. But no one else there really seemed to have it. And I don't want to hear that, oh, well, that's what you get. It's the Empire State. It's New York, the police state central. No, I grew up there. Yeah. People know how to throw a concert. Holy fuck. When Def Leppard played, 3 years in a row at the state fair, I mean, they got the best show you could ever have. New York knows how to have a good time. That's nuts to say that it's because it's New York. That's not it at all. I mean, but certainly, is it the United States now, today? Yeah.
Yeah, it's in a way, it's really true that everything changed after 9/11.
Yeah.
I mean, because it was a totally different atmosphere than I was expecting.
Yeah. So,
the one thing I thought was really cool that I want to talk about was Nikki Sixx got up on the stage during he actually did a monologue. He gave a story about
he had everybody sit down. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I gotta use those chairs for something, I suppose. Yeah, he told everyone to sit down and he was going to do a little story time, and he basically told a story about it was very satanic, if I can use that word, in the sense of in the sense of anti-self-sacrifice, the kind of Satanism that's like doing stuff for yourself, and which is actually, I wouldn't call myself a Satanist, but I definitely believe in doing stuff for yourself and taking care of yourself before anything else, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's going to do it for you if you don't do it. So yeah, he was basically talking about the story of how he was playing in some other band before Motley Crue, and he didn't have any money, and he wasn't sure what he was doing, but he had a dream basically, and he found these other guys, and he formed Motley Crue, and he quit the other band that he was in. He said, guys, I don't know why, but I quit, and I'm going to do something else. And so, he told this kind of inspirational story of how all these people are telling him, oh, you'll never make it, it's a cliche, and he did, and fuck those people. And he said, don't listen to anyone who tells you not to make your own decisions and not to follow what you think is right to do.
Yeah.
And he was really emphasizing, like, he said at the beginning of it, people say everything happens for a reason. Well, I don't believe that. Fuck that.
Yeah.
I think things happen because you decide to make them happen.
Yeah, because you made a decision. Yeah, that's exactly what he said. That was amazing.
Yeah, that was cool to hear from, in a world where so many celebrities are like this woo-woo spirituality and
right.
like, oh, it's fate, and God did it, Jesus gives me everything, and he was actually saying, no, I did this by hard work and by making choices, conscious choices that I did for a reason. And it's okay to listen to your conscience and your gut and your instinct, and make your own choices, and damn what other people think about your choices.
Take the risk. Yeah, it was really awesome when he said, no, it happens because you made a decision. Mm-hmm. That was really inspirational. I agree. And actually, that's something I hadn't really experienced in a concert, because, he was there for a good while.
Yeah.
Doing this, telling the story and doing the talk. And I just thought it was fantastic.
It was. You said he's been through therapy, right?
Oh, Nikki Sixx, yeah, he's done a lot of. In fact, the song "Primal Scream" that they did on their greatest hits, "Decade of Decadence" in '91, is all about him really doing a lot of therapy, and realizing just how he has a couple other songs that never really got released, but you can get them on like demo tapes that are about like his father was such an asshole, and beat him, and just did very terrible things. A lot of things that the Liberty Movement really resonates with. That some parents can really be very brutal, and that can be as oppressive as the state. And so he's done a lot of therapy. Really, he died. He was declared dead.
Mm-hmm.
Nikki Sixx has quite a story. Stopped. Yeah, his heart stopped. That's what the song "Kickstart My Heart's" all about. And so, and they went clean after that. Like, he stopped the drinking, drugs, the whole business, because he's mainlining Jack Daniels. Yeah,
I can't even imagine how much pain you're in to get to that point.
Yeah, so so he's a genuine success story, for what they are. And he still has his own band. He does 6 a.m. They just had an album come out that was really good. But anyway,
that was a cool aspect of the concert.
That was
again another thing that made it a really good show.
Yeah, the performance was phenomenal.
People didn't react to it.
Yeah, it was just the atmosphere was wrong.
Yeah,
it was so wrong. It was not metal, and they even performed,
it was not metal.
Yeah,
that's right.
They performed Anarchy in the UK.
Yeah, they did.
Which
Sex Pistols.
Yeah, right. Which they released that originally also on Decade of Decadence, which I just mentioned. And what part of the message is getting missed?
Yeah. I guess it just proves that you can say anything you want. Like, the one thing we have left in America is to complain and to say whatever we want. Mm-hmm. But that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, but awesome performances. You enjoyed Motley and Alice.
I loved it. I loved the performances. I really did enjoy it. I took a lot of pictures, which I usually don't take pictures.
Yeah.
I loved being, so at the end, the very last song, Motley Crue, they said all right, we're done. See you later. And they left the stage. But next to us, like next to where we were sitting the whole time, there was a platform with a drum set that was like covered up, sort of barely covered up.
Right.
And we looked at it and we're like, oh, something's going to happen there.
Yeah,
they're going to come out on that platform at some point. So they did. For their last song, they played Home Sweet Home.
Yep.
And they got on this platform, and it kind of like jacked up to the ceiling and elevated, and then came back down. And that was really cool because we were like right next to it. We were 3 feet away from them.
Yeah, this is something Tommy has talked about. Like during the Dr. Feelgood tour, they wanted like audience participation. Of course, this is in '89, and so they had Tommy like his drum set raise and then go out over the crowd. So he was literally over the crowd, and like he could like bungee down and hang out with them. I think that might have been during the Swine tour, but anyway, yeah, they're big on the fact that they don't want there to be a bad seat in the house. Now, we were on the floor. You know, it wasn't a bad seat at all. We had very clear vision of what was going on, but we were kind of back. But I mean, we ended up for the last song, the last performance, you know, that as it stands, we'll ever see of Motley Crue. We were literally 6 feet from them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, best seat in the house. It was awesome. And that was so cool. And I posted some of the pictures, some of the great pictures you took on Twitter. So people can find those there if they want to see some of that. So I mean, it was good. You know, ending off with Home Sweet Home was good. There's a lot of songs I would have loved for them to have done. They did do some songs off of Saints of Los Angeles, which was their last full album. That was really great. They did Motherfucker of the Year. I love that song.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, the whole concert was just. You know, the performance was fantastic. These guys, I really wish they'd keep on going because they still have it. I mean, somehow Kiss is still going, and they're literally six. I mean, Gene's, I think he's 66, or maybe he's 64. Wow. Alice was 66.
Yeah.
You know,
he's got to be getting up there.
I mean, he's still doing an awesome show.
God, yeah, Motley Crue. I mean, they were born the same year I was born. They've been doing it since I was a baby.
Yeah, they've been performing since then.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean...
Oh, so they've been doing it even longer. But yeah, they've been performing since
they've been performing
born.
since 81. So...
Wow. So that's 3 years before I was born, actually.
Yeah. Year I was born. But anyway...
Yeah, they've been doing it since you were a baby.
Yeah, boy, and it's all still so good. So, anyway...
Yeah, so cool show, but that's why I was saying before that I think it'll be their last tour, because... I think they're just not, when you look at videos of their live shows from the 90s or the 80s or whatever, it's just so much more interactive, and people are so much more grateful to see them, and they're just going nuts. Whereas now it's like, people are like, oh, better not stand in the aisle.
Yeah, you know, it's telling. I mean, when the music itself is so rebellious, and yet the people are just calm as Hindu cows, even drunk.
Yeah.
It's, God, that's disheartening,
you
know, and it's just like, fuck it, you know, it's like, I mean, and it really, for me, it just bolsters my opinion that, you know, this anarchy thing, not for everybody. Because clearly there's people not getting it.
I wouldn't. Okay, I mean, I think we got to get it clear. Like, we were not interested in destroying any property or just doing anything violent or anything like that. But like, just expressing a little more heart, a little more,
a little more the music,
excitement,
go, you know, and just, I mean, here's your chance, turn loose. I mean, it's like Halloween, or you get to dress up how you want.
Stop it with this Puritanism shit, you know.
God. Yeah,
let's express ourselves a little bit.
Yeah. Or it's like, you know, are you really listening to the lyrics?
Like, a rock concert is like the one safe area in society where it's okay to let loose a little bit,
right, and
express yourself. And people weren't even feeling safe doing it there.
Yeah.
So where can they express themselves?
Yeah, I don't know.
And where does that come out? You know, it's like if you... like, you know, they say if you use antiperspirant, like the sweat's going to come out somewhere else on your body. like where does it come out in their lives? You know, where if they can't let loose at a Motley Crue concert, like they must be doing like some kind of BDSM, like, you know, weird shit, like in the privacy of closed doors. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, we, you know, show's over. We
go to the hotel. And we checked in kind of late, but we had a fun evening. That's private.
I'll say. Where do you let it out? Let me tell you where.
Well, anyway. We were talking about it, and we were like, you said, what did you think of it? And I said, well, it was great, except for the police state.
Yeah.
And then we had a little talk about it, but yeah, we had a good time, and then fast forward to the next morning.
Yeah.
And we took off, and we actually went through Northampton, Massachusetts, which is one of my favorite places. It's near where I went to college at UMass Amherst.
Ah, yes.
And I have a favorite place in Northampton, which is a spa. It's actually like these Japanese style hot tubs that you can go in, and some of them are on the roof of the place, so they're like outside. So you go outside in the cool air, and there's like this little walled off room, and it's got a shower and a hot tub. And
you know what? Before we keep going on with that, because I'm sure people have amazing visuals running through their head of you.
You too. Hot.
We stopped at Denny's for breakfast.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And
how could I forget?
You know, after such a rebellious show, I had some pumpkin spice pancakes at Denny's. Hot damn, were those good? Woo! I was, they were huge. I got the lumberjack slam. And yeah, I was just like, yeah, load it up, baby. It was
that was your cheat meal.
Oh, it was so good. You know, you got to go 80-20 or maybe 60-40. Oh God, that was good. Anyway,
I'm so glad you enjoyed it.
All right,
well, you know, I have to say I was
Yeah.
pleasantly surprised by Denny's because I wasn't expecting much. I just wanted an omelet, and I actually got a really good omelet. It was like filled with vegetables. It was big, you know, lots of eggs.
Yeah.
And I got like fruit with it, and it was
nice.
It was really good, and it was good value, and I enjoyed.
Yeah,
Denny's.
held us over till we got to the hot tubs.
Totally.
So yeah, so we're in these walled, these walled, nice wooden walled, very much picture a Japanese atmosphere.
Yeah. Oh
and
God, I just
architecture.
want one of these so bad. At home.
Yeah.
I can't put it in here, but maybe someday I'll be able to do that.
Yeah, and they're not expensive to visit. Like, I mean, they may be expensive to operate at home, but it's certainly not an expensive trip to make.
Yeah, I mean,
it was on the way.
Unless you consider the time it takes to drive there, that's really the most expensive part because it's a couple hours away. I wish this particular place, it's called East Heaven in Northampton. It's right by Smith College. And I really wish...
Lesbian capital of the world.
Oh, for sure. They have a women's tub night, like on Tuesday or something. You can go with a big group of women friends.
Go for it, ladies.
Oh, I'm going to go to that someday. But anyway, I wish they would franchise to the Dartmouth area because that's where we are now.
Oh,
and it would be so great to drive 10 minutes to one of these. And I think they would actually do really well here with business because it's a similar kind of... It's a similar kind of area.
And any business that opens around Dartmouth, I have to think, especially something with so much culture.
Something with class. Like this.
With
It's
a lot
a very
of class.
classy place.
Yeah, it would do very well, especially at those prices. Amazing. So we enjoyed that a lot. And then we went there's a chocolate shop in Northampton called the Chocolate Emporium, and they've got sugar-free chocolates. So we got some of those. Oh, God. I got this... was toffee? Coffee? What the hell was that?
Espresso, right?
Not toffee. Jesus. Yeah, espresso.
Where'd you get the toffee? It sounds like coffee.
Yeah,
right?
it's just picture a little chocolate thing, not a, I don't know.
A ball
little
of chocolatey goodness. It's like a little chocolate
you bite
bomb.
into it, and your mouth literally explodes. It's like somebody snowballed you.
Oh God!
with coffee, with espresso, and I was just like, oh my God! I mean,
well, for that to happen, coffee would have to come out of your dick.
Yeah,
so
right.
That's not exactly an apt.
Boy, anyway, leave that for some kind of hentai.
Coffee does not come out of your dick. Okay, I know you think you're superpowers.
All right, hold on. I had a girlfriend who said she thought it would be so hot, and of course she was Jewish. She thought it would be so hot if out of one nipple milk came out and out of the other nipple honey came out. So I don't know if that. And the reason I bring up the Jewish thing is I don't know if she had like some kind of like weird like trauma over the land of milk and honey or what.
She's going to take you to the land of milk and honey.
So anyway, but yeah,
it would be kind of cool.
That'd be interesting. I
have to give that to her.
Yeah. People used to be creative. Before the internet told you what to before Facebook and Twitter told you what to think, people used to come up with their own ideas.
Boy, isn't that the truth?
Yeah. So anyway, but this espresso chocolate candy was just like, my eyes went wide and I was just like, oh my God, I don't know what just happened. But I only got one of them, so I didn't get to try anymore.
I made you put it in a separate bag, in fact, because I was afraid it would taint the rest of the candy.
Yeah, taint.
Yeah, I got some mint truffle type things. And of course, people may not know this about sugar-free chocolates, but they make you fart in about 12 hours afterwards. So it's like you got to kind of enjoy them in moderation. Like you just can't eat too many at the same time. So
otherwise you become Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, exactly. Ripping ass. So basically I got a sampling and I didn't eat all of them at once. So I was like just tasting them over the next couple of days, gradually, very gradually. But yeah, that was good. And then we went to like a organic Chinese restaurant. Like it was a Chinese restaurant, but they had like locally sourced food. Like all their food was fresh. They had like this
and it was like outside of town.
It was outside of town,
which was
by
like
a laundromat.
Well off the beaten path. Yeah.
Well,
good Chinese places are nearby laundromats. That's not.
I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that place, I found it on Yelp of all places. And it got good reviews on Yelp, so I figured we'd give it a try. And I told you that I was going to blame Yelp if it was bad, because we all know the problems with Yelp if we listen to Sovereign Tech.
Yeah, right. No, it's true. Yeah, I mean, I totally checked Ethereum, and they said,
oh God,
I checked the blockchain, and this place was really on the up and up. So if
that blockchain marriage, Daryl said it didn't get recorded.
Yeah, as I understand it didn't. I don't know. Yeah, because we were at Keenevention that got brought up. Of course, that special got released earlier this week that people can listen to, where it has both your Bitcoin panel and my tech panel.
That's right.
And that's really enjoyable to listen to. So yeah, but this place is good. The food was pretty good there. Yep,
the Great Wall in Northampton.
Yeah, fantastic. Though I thought the servers were like, it was weird because they were actually American.
Those poor kids, they were like, college kids. They didn't have a clue what they were doing, and they just couldn't handle it. There were too many people in there.
Yeah, please understand, that I'm not insulting them, listeners. Please understand, I'm not insulting these people, but like it literally looked like they just started. Like they were very confused as
they
to
were
what
trying
was
to
going
kind
on.
of coordinate with each other. Yeah,
it
there's two of them.
It was very strange to watch. But anyway, the food was great. That's the bottom line.
Yep. Yeah, I got this stuffed tofu. Like, I don't know how they did this. And please, tofu, I don't think it's good for you. I know I know the dangers of soy and all yada yada. I like it. Okay. I love the taste of tofu. I don't really know why I like it either. It's supposed to be one of these, it's supposed to be like a health food that people choke down because they think it's good for them.
Right.
My view on it is totally the opposite. I love the taste of it, and I think it's bad for you. I eat it because I like it. So I got stuffed tofu. It was tofu that had like a ball of chicken and shrimp in the middle of the tofu. I don't know how they got it in there. And it was like integrated with the tofu. So they must have like placed it in the middle of the tofu and then somehow solidified it. I don't know how they did it, but it was really good.
Yeah, I had one of them. It was really amazing.
Yeah, and it had like Chinese spices, and it had baby Chinese cabbage that was all fresh from like a local farm. You could tell when it's fresh, you know, because it just tastes way crunchier and way different and like more alive, you know.
Yeah.
So that was great. That's an experience we don't really get up here because I don't know any like locally sourced restaurants or anything like that, especially not like, Chinese places.
Not like that, yeah.
We've got like Men at Walk and Peking Tokyo.
Yeah, so
the Orient.
Yeah.
Those are the three we have to choose from.
But so we ended up coming back to New Hampshire after that.
Yes, and then we had like a day at home, and then we went to Keenevention.
Yeah, and that was great. We got to stay in an RV.
That was so
at
cool.
Mark's place.
So we stayed at the Hotel Edgington.
Yeah, which was very kind of him because I mean we were going to have to get a hotel because you had two other panels that you were on. Not that you were heading.
I was on
Saturday.
3 panels,
right,
2 on Saturday, 1 on Sunday.
Yeah, we would have had to like drive back and forth to Keene, which
would have been such a fucking pain in the ass. I'm so glad he let us.
Yeah,
stay there.
or we would have had to pay for a hotel room, which
and I didn't have points for Best Western.
Exactly. So Mark was very gracious and gave us 2 to use this RV, and that was great. It was very comfortable. It was very warm. It was very nice.
It was like camping.
Yeah,
it was so cool.
Yeah, he had Wi-Fi, transmitting out, and the whole thing.
I was thinking like I could live in this place. Like, good thing he kicked us out on Sunday night, because I was thinking like, wow, this is really comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it had everything. It had a shower, sink, bed. It was
almost
warm,
makes you wonder.
Refrigerator.
How many people do you think could live or could coexist comfortably inside of that?
No more than 2.
Really?
2 would be pushing it. I would say 1 is ideal for
3?
that. No way.
Couldn't do 3?
No fucking way.
All right, we need a bigger one.
Don't say that. But yeah, that was like the highlight of the weekend, was staying in this little thing. Like that was awesome. I even did yoga in it the mornings. Like I did yoga before we went to Keenevention. So yeah, like we the night we got there, we were just kind of having a chill night. We got there kind of early, so we watched a movie. We watched Larry David's movie called
Clear History. Yeah, that was pretty funny.
It was funny, yeah. Like, I really am a big fan of Larry David, and I hadn't seen this movie before. It's about, like, he's like an ad exec for this car company, and the guy who runs the car company, who's his business partner, wants to name it after his son, who he named after Howard Rourke in The Fountainhead.
Which is ironic because,
yeah, because some other guy says, oh, he's the biggest asshole in literature, and he's not an asshole. He's the virtue of selfishness. Okay. So they have a disagreement over the name of the car, because he wants to name the car the Howard, the business partner does. Larry David quits, and he gives up his equity in the company, and then the company becomes like $1 billion company, and he loses like $1 billion or $1 million.
This car becomes like as popular as the Toyota Prius.
Yeah, and it's basically, I think it's basically making fun of the Prius.
I think it is.
It's an electric car, and everyone's like, oh, I got a Howard, and so he becomes this like laughing stock of town, and everyone's like, oh my God, is that the guy who lost $1 million, who gave up his equity in the Howard? And so then he becomes a totally different person. He starts a new life. He moves to Martha's Vineyard, and he starts a new life. And then the guy who was his business partner moves to Martha's Vineyard, and he's building this big mansion, this McMansion on Martha's Vineyard. And Larry David's kind of friends with all the locals, and he plots to like blow up the guy's house, and he tries to fuck his wife.
Like Howard Rourke blew up.
Yes, because he sees the Fountainhead. Yes.
Yeah, because he sees the movie with Gary Cooper. Anyway. So we won't spoil the ending on that one.
Yeah, but it was a funny movie.
It was good.
I enjoyed that.
It was pretty good. Then
Keenevention starts, and it was interesting, So this is the second year Ian's done Keenevention. It was about the same size as it was last year, this year.
Yep, same venue.
And Ian said he thought all the Manch people were gone, Manchester, New Hampshire people.
I didn't really see a whole lot of them.
There weren't, except for on the ones that were on panels, basically.
Like Rob Mathias was there, and some others. Yeah.
Yeah, Objectivist Girl was there.
Yep.
And Carlos and Brett were there.
Yep, Brett was there.
But Ian seemed to think that people were not there because they were doing political campaigning, which, if that's the case, I feel bad for them.
Yeah, that sucks.
They missed a weekend of fun because they were doing political campaigns.
Yeah, it's like, come on, if anything, show up for an hour and do some highlighting of, like, give some, real-time accounts of what exactly is going on with their political gains, or whatever. I mean, something.
I don't want to hear about that.
I don't either, but I'm just saying, like...
Well, supposedly, Free Staters swept the New Hampshire legislature.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Really, okay.
I don't really see any freedoms that I've gotten from Free Staters being in the New Hampshire legislature.
People are going to list some stuff off, whatever. The point I want to bring up.
Well, even the stuff that they list off, it's nothing. It's they say, well, we've held back the not having a seatbelt law. I don't really care about that. I wear a seatbelt.
Well, I like that law, but
I like it, but it doesn't. I don't feel like it has a huge impact on my daily life.
I like the fact that it isn't a law.
Right. Same here. I like the fact that it isn't a law, but I don't feel like it impacts my daily life that much.
Right.
Also, they say that they repealed some kind of knife ban. I don't carry a knife. It doesn't make much of a difference to me.
Yeah.
What else?
Mean
the
we don't
budget
want people
cuts
to have their freedoms. Of course they do. But
yeah, and then they say there was budget cuts or something like that, and
yeah, whatever. It's the fact is that if you are going to be a politician, okay, you are supposed to be, especially if you're a representative or a senator, you are supposed to be representing the people. And what people here exactly are on a pro-liberty, tirade? If they were, wouldn't none of this be a problem? you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't, and also, like, I have
so you think the politicians, the so-called liberty politicians, are not representing the statist constituents?
Yeah, they're not representing their constituents.
That's funny. Yeah, that's kind of turning around, because usually the liberty people claim they're not represented by the statist.
Well, right, that's the thing. That's the whole. And that's more of the problem, is that they're always arguing, saying, "Look, the problem with government is that there's people out there that think that they know what's best for you." Well, isn't that exactly what you're doing when you become a politician? You're telling those people. And look, the liberty people are right. Yes, they have their, the moral high ground or whatever. There's no question about that. But your attitude's no different than the statists when you are saying you know better. You know what I mean?
And you're such a great troll, Brian.
Yeah, and you are going to use the force of government to prove that point, that you know better. And
I have to agree, the attitude is the same. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, whatever.
I like what Wes says about this. It's statist flypaper. It catches them, it sticks them, and it gets them into the system. And now they're stuck to the statist flypaper.
All it's going to take for me is one time for one of these liberty politicians to say, "Look, Brian, you got to hold off. You just got to wait. These things take time." And I'll just be like, "Forget it. This is all worthless." You know what I mean? Like,
I feel sad for them.
Yeah, that's just totally buying into this bullshit. That the system works. That's really them admitting that the system
government
works.
can roll back the government. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And it's like, stop it. Tell that to somebody a little bit older than you that just came off the turnip truck. Okay, I mean, it's so crazy. But anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that. I don't want to use that kind of argument, because it sounds like, well, I'm older, I know better than you, or whatever. But I just feel bad for them, because I know that they're going to be wasting their time. They're going to be dealing with a lot of frustration and statism, and they're, at the end of the day, probably not going to make much of a difference in most people's lives who care about freedom. The real difference you can make in your life, if you do care about freedom, is to focus on the things you can control, like we were talking about at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
But the political system doesn't focus on any of those things. They're all just, these abstract things about parking tickets and knives and
anyway,
where the taxes get spent. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of pointless. And I feel sad, because like some of these people I've known for many years, and they're still doing politics, whereas I kind of did it for one season, then I was like, yeah, I need to think about this and reevaluate, and then came out to the conclusion that it's not working, and it can't work, because fundamentally the system is broken.
Yeah.
It's a rotten system to the core. I want nothing to do with it. You can't make any meaningful change through it, because the means are not compatible with the ends.
Sure.
Using the violence of government to get peace is not going to work. So.
Yeah, or even just using the antiquated system as is to affect change. It doesn't work. I mean, and that's really what they're shooting for.
Yeah, it is a really antiquated system. That's true.
Yeah, and so, I mean...
But Brian, they're going to take Bitcoin for their campaign donations.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly. But God, that whole argument just drives me nuts, because, I mean, they're saying, well, look, I need to represent myself, so I'm going to run as a politician. It's like, no, you don't understand. That's not what that job is about. The job of the politician is to represent the people. Your vote is supposed to represent your desires, not you, the politician. I think it's fucked up. I think it's really fucked up. And to say, and then what's the other beauty? Oh, well, I'm running on an educational platform.
Oh,
okay. Yeah, and that's a beauty.
All you have to do is stick to the statist flypaper.
Yeah,
I won't get stuck.
Yeah, that's a wonder. Now, I'll grant you, it's really inexpensive to run an educational platform in New Hampshire. Okay, but people use this argument for all kinds of politicians. Rand Paul, Ron Paul, take your, Gary Johnson, take your pick. The amount of money, literally the hundreds of thousands or the millions of dollars that these people get from PACs and whatever to do this educational platform.
Yeah.
You could go buy a city. You could go buy your own goddamn city.
There's that one in South Carolina, right?
They're all in all kinds of states. There's ones in California. There's ones in South Dakota. There's ones in all over the place where they cost literally as much as some houses.
Yeah.
You could buy the entire city and go and do your thing, man. Fuck your educational platform.
Yeah, when you put it that way, you really have a point. It's totally
nuts.
True.
It's nuts. Maybe I'll cut this part out and
no,
put it somewhere
don't leave
else.
it in. It's
no,
good.
no. I'm going to leave it in. I'm just saying, I think this message needs to get out. You're raising really, I think we're raising some great points. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, so we can get back to Keenevention if you want to.
Yeah, let's do that because Halloween. Or go ahead.
Well, what I was saying was that Ian seemed to think that a lot of Manch people weren't there because they were doing political campaigns, which may have been true, but I was kind of wondering if maybe they weren't there because they were boycotting.
Oh, Keenevention itself?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Because they disagree with what the Keene people are doing, or they
their style of
disagree
activism.
with Chris Cantwell being there or something.
Yeah.
Who knows what they would disagree with, but
yeah.
I wondered if it was ideologically, not just that they were busy that weekend.
Yeah, it's possible. So, but that night, you were on a couple of great panels. You did the media panel with Brett and Mark Edge, and
the media panel came out pretty good. I thought there was
Cantwell
a lot of
was there,
and Garritian,
Garritian,
yeah. There was a lot of good info for people who just want to start a podcast. Maybe you could put that out on Sovryn Tech sometime because it's a lot of good beginner information. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll release it.
I don't know
fine.
if you want to, but
no, that talk I think is worth.
I've got
releasing.
a recording anyway.
That's right.
And then I was on a charity panel as well. So we talked with Amanda from Shire Sharing was there.
Sure.
That panel was good. It was just that it could have had a little more lively presentation at times. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to kind of spice it up and be animated, I guess.
Yeah.
but at the end, it came out really good because there were some really interesting issues. We talked about homelessness and the complexities of homelessness and how there's such a stigma around it, and the concept of paternalism in charity came up.
Yeah, that was
good. That was a really interesting question brought up by this gentleman. I can't remember his name, but someone I didn't know. And he said, look, the whole idea behind the state doing welfare is to kind of take the paternalism out of charity, which they failed at. But is it inherent? Does it creep back in when libertarians try to do charity? And that's a question I've definitely thought about before. And I think sometimes it does. Unless you have a charity, my answer was that unless you have a charity that is saying, hey, we're here, we're available for you if you need it. If you want help, come to us. We're not going to go reach out to you and ask, do you need help? But we're here in case you need it.
Yeah.
That's the style of charity that's not going to be paternalistic.
Right.
Whereas one that reaches out may be more paternalistic. Yeah. And also, I guess it's just about having empathy. There's this temptation to say, well, that person shouldn't have a cat because they're homeless or whatever. That person shouldn't have this. They shouldn't be spending their money on a sandwich when they could be getting an apple or something,
Yeah, and defining homeless was interesting too because Daryl Perry, during the Q&A segment of the panel, he actually mentioned me quite a bit, and of course talked about himself.
Yeah,
because
he was referring to your Sovryn Tech show where you talked about living in your car for a while.
I lived out of my truck, and he's living in what he calls the not a bus, because it's bus, but it's not a bus, and saying, look, some people don't have a house or a home or apartment by choice. And they're just doing something different.
Yeah, that's what Dale said too. He was saying it's like a kind of freedom for them.
Yeah, and so that was important to kind of
they just want
get that out there.
Get out of the rat race.
Sure.
I can relate to that. Sure.
So those were good, and then what was a lot of fun was the Halloween party.
Yeah.
Later on, that Derek J held.
Indeed, yeah, we dressed up as Starfleet commandos. Not commandos.
Yeah, officers.
Officers. Sorry, I was thinking of like commando, like when you don't wear any underwear.
Oh yeah, well that might have been happening.
We dressed up Starfleet uniforms, and we were told that Starfleet is a military dictatorship, which is communist because it doesn't have any money.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic. Like the Starfleet and money is a whole, because in the original series they talk about getting paychecks.
Huh.
And so
I never saw that.
Yeah, in the original series. In the Next Generation, it seems relatively clear. Other than the Ferengi, there isn't really a whole lot of money.
Of course,
but in the original series, it's a much different ball game. But yeah, I mean, I think it's, if one said Starfleet was socialist, that's not necessarily unfair. But yeah, I mean, we went as Starfleet officers, and I thought a lot of people thought we looked pretty cute. And posted some pictures of that as well on social media. People thought that was pretty awesome.
There were some great costumes there. There were also some kind of disturbing costumes. There were some like realistic kind of military and cop costumes that freaked me out a little bit.
Yeah, it was almost like, it's like, okay, yeah, I get it. We don't like the state, but it's like, can we really just have fun? And those costumes are like the antithesis of fun.
Yeah. There's
and
always
a little too realistic. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. There's always this kind of like, some people say that what you dress up as for Halloween like represents often like something you're repressing, or like something you wish you could do in real life, or people psychologize Halloween costumes, and the fact that someone who is a liberty person might choose to dress up like a cop or some kind of state person that's associated with the state, that's a little interesting, right? Like they're thinking about it a lot, huh?
Yeah, I don't know. Right. It's not something I would have chosen. In fact, like one of them even asked me, did I get this accurate? Asking about a military uniform. Obviously, he was aware that I was in the military. I'm like, yeah, it looks pretty accurate. And it's like, well, obviously, I was in the military, but you never cared to listen to a goddamn word I ever said about the fact that I don't appreciate the military. I don't,
yeah.
Like, I don't know, whatever. Not that people have to be, sensitive to every little damn thing, but it's, yeah.
Yeah, you weren't so comfortable with that, huh?
Well, it just seemed odd.
Yeah.
And anyway.
Yeah.
So, but it was a good time. Overall, it was a great time.
Yeah.
And certainly, I mean, this point has been made on Free Talk Live and whatever, that any other Halloween party and this stuff, these people probably would have gotten put into, a paddy wagon and taken away. For dressing that way.
Brett was Judge Burke.
That was hilarious.
That was funny.
He looked amazing.
Yeah, he got some kind of award for the best costume or something. that was really funny.
That was funny. So in Allie Havens, she had a very very interesting makeup.
Oh yeah, she was the
design.
She did her face makeup like the skulls, like the Dia de los Muertos in Mexico.
Yeah, it worked. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so that was nice. And
so then Sunday went around and we did our Bitcoin panel and tech panel.
Right, which those have been released, and those were good. So, and otherwise, then we went to we had dinner with some good people. We went out to dinner with actually a couple Sovereign Tech fans, and Johnson and Danica, and. It was that was great, and then we went and did Free Talk Live, and actually, I got to meet quite a few Sovereign Tech listeners there. That was really great. It's always fun to meet listeners, and they all the cool thing is that they all seem to recognize that this is like almost a one-way street, where they know everything about me or you, but they don't know who they are. We don't know anything about them.
Yeah,
and but it's nice that they recognize that, and so. That's known, as to where other times some people can come off really strong, not recognizing that relationship. And
the guy that we had joined us in this Free Talk Live studio and his son were both really, really cool.
Fantastic, class acts.
Yeah, they were both really awesome. We had kind of known them because they had written into the show, and we knew they were listening, but we didn't. And he had told you that his son listened too. His son is 8 years old.
Yeah.
And so we had never met them in person until this last weekend. And that was really cool. Like I was really, I mean, the son, I was really impressed by him. Like he was so awesome. Like he was really considerate. He was really like assertive. Like he knew
of
what
his own needs.
wanted. Yeah. Like he really seemed like a very peaceful parented kid. You know, just a nice person.
Yeah, agreed. I was impressed. Great conversations to be had. Very deep stuff.
Yeah. And the dad, of course, I was impressed by him.
Yeah.
I was fascinated by their relationship because it seemed like, so he was showing his son a lot of trust. You know what I mean? Like, and that was one thing that I kind of felt was lacking when I was a kid, was like, I was capable and smart, but I didn't get necessarily the trust that I wanted. And I was always kind of trying to prove that I was competent and I could do things. And adults just didn't let me off the leash. They didn't trust me, you know, like, but this guy trusted his son a lot. And the son was like really mature, and he was really like, he was thriving. Yeah. So that was like awesome to see.
Yeah, it was amazing because they really acted like, you know, in the short time that we got to experience them, they really acted like friends.
Yep.
And totally. I think that's such a beautiful relationship, you know, for family members to have.
Absolutely.
So that was really cool. Yeah, and we did Free Talk Live, and then we went home, and then it was, you know, back to the quote unquote grind, I guess, on Monday, right?
There's only one grind going on in this house.
Oh man, does it go on?
So that's our trip.
Yeah. So that was great. It was a good time overall. Some interesting, you know, insights I think to be had on it and all. But that was that was Keenevention.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's going to be a third. I heard that it was being considered.
I think Ian would probably like to do a third, but he's trying to look for a venue, like the venue
cost effective.
Yeah, the venue raised their rates this year, and he was afraid they're going to raise them again next year, so he was going to kind of shop around.
Right.
But I mean, that hotel, as far as I understand, was like happy to have us, and they were pretty good to deal with. Yeah.
Coffee was free, tea was free.
I
mean,
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, it was really good.
We
and
we
even
didn't stay at the hotel, but
right. Yeah. I mean, the Halloween party was even at the hotel, and you know, they pretty much left everything alone until, you know, when the clock struck midnight. They wanted everybody out, but other than that,
they were turning into a pumpkin. Yeah, but yeah, I was good with them. I mean. So, yeah, we don't know if there'll be another one, but I hope there will be, because I enjoyed it. I had fun.
It's a good time, and I love doing the panels and getting to talk about the deep stuff. And again, if anyone listening to this has not heard those panels, they were released earlier this week, and you can catch them. So, and they were all done personal recordings. This is long before perhaps that they will be released on keenevention.info, which is the website where video will be released. If you want to wait for that, that's fine. But these are advanced releases that thank you very much, Stephanie, for providing.
Of course.
Definitely all you.
Sure, my pleasure.
Yeah.
You know, I love these trips where we don't have to fly.
Yeah, kidding.
I love these driving trips.
Even though we still kind of had to do
better.
with a little TSA. Yeah, driving is so much better. You're right.
Yeah. It was only at the concert. I mean, I think we can kind of avoid it if we just, you know, drive slow. And
yeah, it's fun to drive. I mean, either we're talking to each other or we're doing something else, or, you know, we turn on a podcast.
You can do whatever you want. You can lean your seat back. You can eat in the car. You can stop whenever you feel like it. It's like you really do have a lot of freedom that you don't have on a plane.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
I do like road trips better. So, all right, we'll do more of those.
Yeah. So anyway,
I think we better wrap this up and go to bed.
Yeah,
we talked about a lot of stuff.
We did a good 2 hours. That's perfect. That's the way I like to keep it. So
right on.
Anyway, this is getting released. There is a regular episode of Sovryn Tech coming out this week too. Episode 99. They'll be released pretty close to each other within hours, actually. So. You know, do keep your eye out for that.
These specials are getting popular, like the ones where we do a wrap-up of our trip.
Yeah, people love it.
People really like those.
Yeah, they do love it. And, of course, if you do enjoy it, please don't hesitate. There's a lot of donation options to the show on the left-hand side of the page.
Oh, yeah. You know, I have to say, we just found out who the Amazon UK mystery shopper was. This guy wrote to me.
Yeah.
He was asking if we still got the commissions from him going through the Amazon UK link.
Yes.
And I said, yes, we do. And we're enjoying them. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that link is like a cross-show link.
We use it for Pork Therapy and Sovereign Tech and Sex and Science Hour.
So it all goes to everybody here.
You know, for tracking purposes, I guess I could make different links, but I just never did that.
There's no need. No need. Yeah.
I don't care about tracking your listeners.
Yeah.
I just care about what they bought because it's interesting to see what they bought.
Yeah.
So when we start Sex and Science Hour back up, we will be reading those out again.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, plenty to look forward to. Again, there will be a regular episode of Sovereign Tech this week. Do keep your eye out for that. I've been keeping that streak real solid for almost 2 years, pretty much 2 years now.
It's a solid streak.
That's right. It's not brown.
It's not a skid mark. It's a streak.
Yeah. So, Stephanie, thank you so much for staying up to the wee hours of the night.
Oh, my pleasure. This
is
really
fun.
Or the
morning or whatever to
Thanks
do this.
for having me on your show.
Yeah. And, of course, you can new email address. I announced it in the last special, but you can email the show, brian@zomiaofflinegames.com.
He's building an email list. He's going to collect your email address.
Please send me a bit message. It's in the show notes. My address is in the show notes. I love bit message.
I'm totally kidding.
Yeah, no, I know.
You're not going to do that.
Not at all. So anyway, Carpe Lucem, everybody. I'll see you on the other side.
Bye.
You just experienced Sovryn Tech. Go to sovryntech.com, that's SOVRYN tech.com, and connect with us there. Find links from today's show and catch our podcast feed. Sovryn Tech is copy heart. Copying art is an act of love, and love is not subject to law. So please share the show however you like. Welcome to the evolution.